Well, today we have the pleasure of hearing someone give their first sermonette, the long anticipated debut of Mr. Mark Skapura.
I'll try not to disappoint. Well, good afternoon and happy Sabbath to everyone. Such a beautiful Sabbath day. I had a chance to take a walk this morning, took my dogs for a walk, and enjoyed the beauty outside. I get to see the trees blossoming, and the crocuses came up too, so that was really enjoyable. It was very nice to see that this Sabbath. We're supposed to have an excellent week this week as well. So, when I was a young kid and I got in trouble, my mom used to tell me, "I'm going to crown you, young man. I'm going to crown you." Sometimes she'd say it so much I was starting to feel pretty royal. So then I grew up and I got married, and my wife starts to call me a royal pain. So trying to look at that glass as half full and not half empty, I realize that I have a royal destiny. How royal are you feeling? What is your destiny? Do you realize that God is calling you as kings and queens? Your destiny is an awesome destiny. It's something that we really need to take to heart. Every week we get a chance to come here to God's Royal College. This is a learning experience that we have, and God has you on a training program, and this college is to train you for royalty. I'm looking out across the audience today, and I see the future leaders of this world. Every one of you, God has called to be kings and queens. You're going to be the rulers and the game changers in the world to come. Each one of you are a game changer. We have a royal opportunity that's unimaginable and a future that we can't even imagine. I mean, just an awesome thing that our mind can't even grasp. When I think of royalty in this world, I personally have a mixed picture of royalty, and a lot of that's because the oppressive and wicked monarchies that I've studied throughout history and the examples that are given in the Bible. On one hand, we see the royal weddings today and how elegant and beautiful they are, and the quality and the class, and that's something we're going to see in God's kingdom as well, I'm sure, all that quality, the class. But on the other hand, in the world today, we absolutely see the pompous, the arrogant, the snobbish, and the tyrannical governments that man's created throughout history. Let's take a look at the definition of royalty. In Merriam-Webster's dictionary, it says royal, a kingly ancestry of relating to or subject to the crown, being in the crown's service. Wikipedia, royal of or relating to a monarch, of the rank of monarch, or relating to in the service of a kingdom. I thought that definition at least had something to do with what we're going to be experiencing in God's future, in the future of God's kingdom. However, I don't really feel those definitions encompass the future that God has for us. So I thought, really, as being future kings and queens, I think we kind of need to look at what God will be looking at as far as what our royal definition should be. And there's a lot of scriptures that we can relate this to, but I just kind of made up one, and you can embellish this on your own and probably improve on it. Royal, one who has become Christ-like. Someone who is a member of the family of God for the purpose of selfless service to God and all those of his kingdom. One who's filled with love, joy, wisdom, mercy, patience, kindness, and the knowledge of God. One who has endless potential. You can tweak that any way you want, but that's what I felt the future definition of royalty in God's family will be. If you turn to 1 Kings 12:1, we'll take a quick look at what man's government has brought to this earth. 1 Kings 12:1. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had gone to Shechem to make him king. So it happened when Jeroboam the son of Nebat heard it, he was still in Egypt, for he had fled from the presence of King Solomon and had been dwelling in Egypt, that they sent and called him. Then Jeroboam and the whole assembly of Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam, saying, Your father made our yoke heavy. Now therefore lighten the burdensome service of your father, and the heavy yoke which he put on us, and we will serve you. As the story goes, Rehoboam tried to even make their burden heavier with the taxes. However, that was directed from God himself. That was what caused Israel to split at that point. But my point is that Solomon actually had burdened the people so heavily with taxes at the end of his life that it was so strenuous on the people. He was oppressing God's people, Israel. We're going to be the changers of that in the future, because we're not going to be a burden to the people. We are going to be a blessing to the people. As wise as Solomon was, and as many accomplishments as he made, I think we can honestly say that a lot of those accomplishments were achieved on the backs of his fellow Israelites. I mean, he created one of the greatest kingdoms in the history of the earth. Solomon sinned and turned from God, and the people of Israel suffered. Just the same, we can liken that to when we sin, we can cause our families to suffer and be a burden on them as well. Solomon had many great accomplishments. However, he didn't accomplish that all by himself. Obviously, God gets the ultimate credit for it. But a lot of those Israelites, what do we hear about them? Who else helped Solomon in that kingdom? Do we ever hear about the people that created some of the great accomplishments in that kingdom? God won't forget when you make accomplishments, and he won't forget the people in his kingdom as well. They will get the credit, and they will be rewarded according to their works. Let's take a look at another royal warning that God gave Israel when they first wanted a king. Let's turn to 1 Samuel 8:10. 1 Samuel 8:10. So Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who asked him for a king. And he said, "This will be the behavior of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them to be his own and will rule over them." He will take your sons and appoint them for his own chariots and to be his horsemen, and some will take before his chariots. He will appoint captains over his thousands and captains over his fifties. Will set some to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and some to make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers, cooks, and bakers, and he will take the best of your fields, your vineyards, and your olive groves, and give them to his servants. He will take 1/10 of your grain and your vintage, and give it to his officers and servants. And he will take your male servants, your female servants, your finest young men, and your donkeys, and put them to work. He will take 1/10 of your sheep, and you will be his servants, and you will cry. I'm just going to stop there. That action. Each one of these he will take. He will take, I counted 6 times. He will take, he will take, he will take, he will take. And you will cry. That's what a burden that some of the monarchies have been throughout history to mankind. Let's replace that and make this a positive scripture and change that. They will give. They will give. They will give. They will give. That's what we'll be able to do in God's kingdom. We'll be able to be givers. We won't be takers. We're going to be the game changers. As in the example of King Solomon and his subjects in Israel, our forefathers in the United States felt the same way about their monarchy. Think of what our forefathers broke away from. They had heavy tax burdens, land grabs, state-sponsored religion. Does that sound familiar? Things that are happening in our country right now. Let's talk about our example as future kings and queens and as royalty and training. Well, we need to constantly be aware of our examples. Like Prince William and Princess Kate have been prepared how to act in public setting and use proper protocol, we too need to act that way in public as well and use proper protocol. We're supposed to be examples in public and with our families. People are watching us. We are different, and people should know it. If they don't, I think there's something wrong. Like the prince and princesses, in order to set the right example, we need self-control. We need to watch what we say and how we act. We have a certain protocol. Part of our protocol starts with self-control and includes kindness, goodness, and gentleness. We should always have a peace and a joy about us that people recognize. Have you ever seen royalty screaming being vulgar or rude in public or in your face. I've never seen that in my life. Just the same, we need to keep our heads, or else where's God going to put our crowns? The royalty in this world have subjects in their kingdoms. Instead of being subjects in God's kingdoms, people will be the object. The plan is about them, and it's about all humanity. It's about you and me, and it's about everybody who's out there. God has a plan to extend his family. Just as we've accepted and heeded God's calling, so the rest of the world will get that same opportunity someday. I read somewhere that Prince William is also being trained intensively right now for the next few years to become king. How long have each of you been in training? Some maybe only a few months, some maybe 5 years, 25 years, 30 years or more. Have you wasted days, months, or years of your calling? As the Passover draws closer, and it's only a few short weeks away, how do you think God views us at this point in our calling? I mean, with the time that he's given us, have we wasted a lot of time? Have we been a royal example, or have we been a royal pain? God knows the challenges that he's given us. He's using those challenges for our personal programs, and he allows obstacles and challenges, and he gives us blessings as well. He's equipped you for your calling. He's training you to be tomorrow's leaders on your personalized program. You're not being trained as part of the masses. You're not being trained in the public schools of today and the mass school systems that we have. You have the opportunity of a lifetime. You have a one-on-one training program that God, our Father, has designed specifically for you. Let's turn to 1 Peter 2:9. 1 Peter 2:9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into marvelous light, who once were not a people, but are now the people of God, who had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Beloved, I beg you as sojourners and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts, which war against the soul. Let's focus on verse 12. Having your conduct honorable among the Gentiles, that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may, by your good works, which they observe, glorify God in that day of visitation. Our examples now are to be to God's glory. Now let's take some time to look at what things will be like in the future under the rule of God's royal family. I guarantee it's going to be something way beyond your wildest imaginations. This afternoon, when you go home, I'm going to ask everyone to just take 10 minutes and do some homework. Close your eyes and envision. I see that some of you are doing that right now. Picture your own personal paradise. Now, personally, I just love the cover of the Good News. I think everyone who knows me knows that I love to scuba dive, and I just thought this was an awesome cover. They know I love the tropics, and I love white sand and crystal clear blue waters that God created. But picture what your paradise is. Just take 10 minutes to do that, and not just physically. I mean, God gave us that physical mindset, and he gave us physical things to enjoy, so that's something we can really relate to. But also think of the time that you can spend to teach people, and you're going to be changing people and working with them. You're going to be healing people who are sick. You're going to be working with them and helping them to lead happy and fulfilled lives. We'll be crowned with greatness in that place. Let's focus a little bit on crowns. Christ is wearing a crown of glory as he sits on the right hand of God. But he did something for us that we should never forget. He wore that painful, twisted crown of thorns that was pressed into his head so that we would have a chance for life. He lost his life so that we could live. As we near the Passover, we need to be thinking on the things that Christ did for each of us. Matthew Henry's concise commentary states, he wore the crown of thorns which we deserved, that we might wear a crown of glory which he merited. Our crowns will be glorious because Christ did what he did for you and me. We should take each and every day to be grateful what Christ did for us in prayer and in our actions. Don't let anybody steal your crown. Let's turn to Revelation 3:11. Revelation 3:11. Behold, I am coming quickly. Hold fast to what you have, that no one may take your crown. However, did you know that there is a time that we will give up our crowns? Turn to Revelation 4:4. There's a time to give up your crown. Revelation 4:4. Around the throne were 24 thrones, and on the thrones I saw 24 elders sitting clothed in white robes, and they had crowns of gold on their heads. And from the throne proceeded lightnings, thunderings, and voices. 7 lamps of fire were burning before the throne, which are in the 7 spirits of God. Behold, the throne there was a sea of glass like crystal, and in the midst of the throne and around the throne were 4 living creatures, full of eyes in front and back. The first living creature was like a lion, the second living creature like a calf, the third living creature had a face like a man, and the fourth living creature was like a flying eagle. The 4 living creatures, each having 6 wings, were full of eyes around and within, and they do not rest day or night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Whenever the living creatures give glory and honor and thanks to him who sits on the throne, who lives forever and ever, the 24 elders fell down before him who sits on the throne and worship him who lives forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, saying, You are worthy, O Lord, you receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created. This is an example of great honor, reverence, and respect before our awesome, majestic, and loving God shown by the 24 elders. It shows the one and only time that we should ever be willing to give up our crown.